Welcome back to my channel. My name is Setson. Today we want to build a scrolling background in Pygame-ce. So let me show you what we're trying to build right here. So I'm going to open my terminal. We're trying to build this. We're trying to build a scrolling background. And so let's see what goes into it. So the first thing, we need to create a Python script. So up here, I'm going to create a file. I'm going to name it scrolling.py. You can name it whatever you want, but it has to have that .py extension. I'm going to get into my Zen mode. So appearance, Zen mode. We need to import Pygame. So the first line is import Pygame. We can make this larger a little bit so that you guys can see. After we import Pygame, we're going to initialize Pygame. Say Pygame.init. I usually love to do this, is to uninitialize Pygame. Okay, so our code is going to go between these two lines. After we initialize Pygame, we're going to create a display surface. We use Pygame.display. There's a set underscore mode function. We can pass in a tuple of the dimensions of the display that we're trying to create. And so I'm going to create constant variables, which I'm going to name width, and then the other one I'm going to name it height, of 800 by 800. We can create multiple variables in one line like this, and so make sure the values match the variables right here. So I have two variables and I have two values, so they match. We can pass in these into this tuple right here. So width, height right here. This line right here will create a window for us. For us to be able to see that window, we need to create game loop while true. And inside this while loop, we're going to be checking for events. So for us to get events, we use the event module. So we're going to say pygame.event.get. And so this will return a list of events. And so we need to check for certain events for us to be able to close our game. So we can say for EV, this EV can be named anything in pygame.event.get. And so we can check the type of event. If EV.type is equal to quit, we want to close our game. You need to use the namespace Pygame like that. But in case you just want to use quit without this namespace, you could import from locals all these constants right here. So you can say from pygame.locals import whatever you want to import. In this case, let's say we want to import quit only. So we can put it in parentheses like this, then we can use it down here. And so if that event type is quit, then we're going to quit Pygame.quit, uninitialize, and then we can jump out of this loop, or we can exit the game completely. We could use the global function exit, but this is not backward compatible. The best way to do this is to use the system module. We need to import sys right here. Let me try and run this. Scrolling.py, run that. You can see our window right here. So we are in the game. All right, so the next thing, we need to have our background image. So I'm going to say imported surface right here. If you want to get more detail about surfaces, you can check my previous video. But for you to create an imported surface, like importing an image, etc., you can use the pygame.image.load, and then this is going to load your images right here. So the image that we want, we do have it in the same folder. This is the one that we're trying to import right here. We need to specify this as a string. So the path to the image, in our case, is in the current directory, background1.png. However, we need to assign these to variables. Here, we're going to name this win, but you can name it whatever you want. This one is going to be IMG. So, for us to be able to see this image right here, we need to blit it to the main surface. The main surface, which is our window. By the way, this win is this win right here. We need to use a built-in method called blit. We have to specify the surface that we're trying to blit, which is IMG. We also have to specify the coordinates where we're trying to blit this. By default, it's 0,0. This is value for X, and this is the value for Y. The top left corner of that window. All right, after we do that, the way Pygame works, it uses what we call a back buffer. So whatever you do is applied on the back buffer. For us to see it on the main buffer, which is the window that we're seeing, we have to update that. So we can call the display Pygame.display.update. So this is going to update the main display. You could also use another method, which is called flip right here. Flip is going to update the whole display surface. Update is going to update sections of the display surface. All right, so we're going to stick with update. And then with this done, we can just run our game to see, run this. As you can see, we have successfully blitted our image. But as you can see, this image is way too big. We need to transform it so that it can fit into this window. This window is too small for the image. So we can do that by using Pygame.transform. There's a transform module for that. We can scale whatever we want. Pass in the surface that you're trying to scale. You also have to pass in the dimensions by which you want to scale that surface. So in our case, we could just say win.get_size, because that's the size which we're trying to scale this down by. We can scale it to the size of the window. You can access the size of the surface by using this get_size, which is a built-in function applicable to surfaces in Pygame. This will return the size of the surface, the width and the height. In our case, it will return this 800 by 800. We also need to assign this to a variable, and we're going to call it image again. And so that's the one that we're using right here. We can save and check this out, whether this has worked or not. And you can see now our image is now fitting into the 800 by 800. So we're good. We can also optimize our images by using the dot convert right here. It's another built-in method for images. For us to move this image, we have to change its X position or its Y position where we are blitting it. So we can assign this to a variable and then change the position. We want to move it on the X-axis from left to right. We can change this first value here, which is 0 currently. I'm going to replace that with an X, and then I'm going to create a variable up here called X. Now assign it to 0, and then I'll increase it on each and every frame. Here I'll increase the value of X plus equal to 0, maybe 0.1. Let's see what happens with this value right here. So let me save and run my script right here. As you can see, my image is moving from left to right, but of course it's leaving a trail right here. We can do the same on the y-axis. We can move our image from top to bottom by assigning this value right here to a variable. I'll call it y, but you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to have y assigned to 0 up here, and then instead of changing the x-axis, we're increasing the value on the y-axis. And let me save this and try and run this and see what happens. So I'm going to run this. Now you can see our image is moving from top to bottom. We want to remove that trail that you can see right there. We can paint our window with a certain color. So we can call the fill method on this, and then I'll pass in a tuple of 0, 0, 0, which is just an RGB value of black. You can use the name of the color right here in quotation marks. So let me save this and let's check this out and run this. What you can see now is we no longer have that trail being left behind. Our image is just moving downwards. We want to create that effect, that illusion of a continuous scrolling image. So what we can do right here is we blit this twice. So I'm just going to copy this and then paste it right here. Instead of drawing this on X0 and Y0, we want to blit it at the top of this image right here. So the way we can do that is we can create another variable here. Let me call it top_Y. And then I'm going to assign it to minus height. It means it's going to be on top of the first image. We can put top Y right here, top_Y. We can also increase that top_Y, top_Y plus equal to 0.1. So let's check out this effect right here. So let me run this. Of course, you can see now we have two images attached. Right? The first one is going and then the second one. But of course, once the second one goes, then we no longer have another image right here. So to create that illusion of a continuous scrolling, we have to create a condition. We can say if our top Y, top_Y, is greater than or equal to 0, because at some point it's going to be greater than or equal to 0, then we set our Y to 0. We also set our top_Y to the original value, which was minus height. Okay, so this will create an illusion for continuous scrolling. So let me save this and run this and see this effect right here. It's going to continuously scroll like that. And so we won't have that black background anymore. The last thing that I want to talk about is the rate at which this is moving. We want to set a certain frame rate whereby it will move at the same speed on slow and fast computers alike. So the way we do that, we create what we call a clock object. We use Pygame.time dot capital letter C clock like this. So I'm going to assign this to a variable which I'm going to call clock in all lowercase. And then we have to use this inside our while loop right here, which is going to cap our frame rate. So to do that up here, you can do it up here or at the end right here, it doesn't matter. So I'll do it at the top right here, and I'll use this clock object right here that we created. And then you can simply say clock dot tick, and then you can specify the frame rate right here inside this tick function. So I'm going to specify that I want this to run at 60 frames per second. This will mean it will run at this frame rate on either slow computers or fast computers. So if I do that, you see this speed right here will not be enough. So let me save this and try and run our game. So run that. You see now it's moving really, really slow. Okay, so now we can adjust the speed here. We can say maybe we want to move at 2 and also this one at the speed of 2. So let me save this and run this. Now we can see now this is moving, right? A continuous scrolling background. If you do have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section. If you consider this content helpful, you can leave a like. You can consider subscribing to the channel. I hope to see you in my next tutorial. For now, I'm out. Cheers.